I sat there at Friendsgiving, frozen, while she flaunted the ring he once told me was too much. Suddenly, nothing about our friendship felt real. I can't even look at group photos anymore. There's this one from last fall. Sarah's got her arm around me, both of us grinning like idiots, and Mark's in the background, blurry, but you can still see the way he's looking at her.
I didn't notice it then.
I was too busy trying to keep my own life from falling apart, too busy trusting the wrong people. Sarah and I have been best friends since we were 12. We met in the nurse's office, both faking stomachaches to get out of gym. She had this wild, curly hair and a laugh that made teachers roll their eyes. I was the quiet one, the old soul, according to my mom. But Sarah pulled me out of my shell, and I guess I let her. I wanted to believe in the kind of friendship that could survive anything. I wanted to believe in her. When I started dating Mark, it was Sarah who cheered the loudest. She helped me pick out outfits, sent me memes to calm my nerves before dates, even coached me through my first real fight with him. She was always there, always on my side. Or so I thought. The breakup with Mark was ugly. I won't pretend I was blameless. Maybe I was too needy. Maybe I expected too much. But he changed almost overnight. He stopped texting back, started making excuses, and when he finally ended it, he did it over the phone. 3 years together and I got a 5-minute call. I remember sitting on my bed, phone pressed to my ear, listening to him say, "I just don't think we're right for each other anymore." I didn't even cry at first. I just felt hollow. Sarah was there within the hour. She brought ice cream, wine, and a playlist of angry breakup songs. She let me rant, let me sob, let me say all the ugly things I needed to say. She told me I was better off, that Mark was an idiot, that I'd find someone who actually deserved me. She was so convincing, so sincere, that I almost believed her. For weeks, Sarah was my lifeline. She texted me every morning, made sure I ate, dragged me out of the house when I wanted to disappear. She even blocked Mark on social media in solidarity. I clung to her because I didn't know how to be alone. I told her things I'd never told anyone, how scared I was of being unlovable, how much I hated myself for not seeing the breakup coming. She listened always, and I thought, this is what real friendship looks like. But then things started to shift. Little things at first. Sarah would cancel plans last minute, saying she was just exhausted or had to help her mom. She started dressing up more, wearing perfume I'd never seen before. She'd get these texts that made her smile, and when I asked, she'd say it was just her cousin or a work friend. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Mark started showing up in places he'd never gone before. Our favorite coffee shop, the one with the mismatched mugs and the barista who always spelled my name wrong. He'd be there, sitting alone, pretending to read. Sometimes Sarah would run into him, and they'd chat for a few minutes, laughing about something I wasn't in on. She'd tell me later, "He's just trying to be mature, you know? Trying to show he can be civil." I nodded, because what else was I supposed to do? Accuse my best friend of what exactly? Being too friendly? I started to feel like a ghost in my own life, like I was watching everything happen from behind glass. I'd see Sarah and Mark together, and something in my gut would twist, but I'd tell myself I was being paranoid, that I was just jealous or bitter or not over him yet. I tried to be supportive, to be the bigger person. I even joked about it. Wouldn't it be hilarious if you two ended up together? Sarah would laugh, but it always sounded a little forced. I wish I could say I confronted them. I wish I could say I trusted my instincts. But the truth is, I was desperate to keep what little I had left. I'd already lost Mark. I couldn't lose Sarah, too. So I swallowed my doubts. I let Sarah reassure me, let her hug me and promise that nothing was going on. I let her tell me that I was imagining things, that I needed to move on. I tried. God, I tried. But the feeling wouldn't go away. It sat in my chest like a stone, heavy and cold. I started having nightmares, Sarah and Mark laughing at me, whispering behind my back, planning a life together while I watched from the sidelines. I'd wake up sweating, heart racing, and tell myself it was just my anxiety, just my brain playing tricks on me. But deep down I knew. I think I always knew. There's this weird thing that happens when you start doubting someone you love. Every little detail becomes suspicious, but you also start gaslighting yourself. I'd catch Sarah glancing at her phone and smiling, and my mind would spiral. Then I'd feel guilty for even thinking it. I'd replay conversations in my head, searching for clues, but everything sounded normal if I said it out loud. I started keeping things to myself, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do with your best friend, right? But I couldn't help it. I felt like if I said the wrong thing, the whole fragile thing between us would shatter. I remember one afternoon, maybe a month after the breakup, Sarah and I were at the park. She was scrolling through her phone, and I was just staring at the pond, watching the ducks fight over a crust of bread. Out of nowhere, she said, I think Mark's really trying to grow up. He's not the same guy you dated. I just nodded, but inside I wanted to scream. Why was she defending him? Why did she care? I started pulling away, just a little. I'd take longer to reply to her texts, make excuses to avoid hanging out. She noticed, of course. She always noticed. One night, she showed up at my apartment with takeout and a bottle of wine, acting like nothing was wrong. We watched some dumb reality show, and she kept glancing at me, like she was waiting for me to say something. I didn't. I just let the silence stretch between us, thick and uncomfortable. The next day, Mark texted me. It was the first time I'd heard from him since the breakup. Just a simple, "Hope you're doing okay." I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I wanted to ask him if he was seeing someone. I wanted to ask if it was Sarah. But I didn't. I just replied, "I'm fine. Hope you are too." He never responded. After that, the coincidences got harder to ignore. Sarah would mention running into Mark at the grocery store, or at the gym, or at some bar I'd never even heard of. She'd act surprised, but her stories never quite lined up. Once, she said she saw him at the farmer's market on Saturday, but I knew he worked weekends. Another time, she said he'd asked about me, but when I pressed for details, she got flustered and changed the subject. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. I'd lie awake at night, replaying every conversation, every look, every laugh. I'd scroll through old photos, searching for signs I'd missed. Sometimes I'd find them. Mark's hand on Sarah's shoulder, Sarah looking at him instead of the camera. Other times, I'd convince myself I was just being paranoid. I wanted so badly to trust her, to trust both of them. But the distance between us kept growing. I stopped telling Sarah about my day, about my feelings, about anything that mattered. I started hanging out with other friends, people who didn't know Mark, who didn't know Sarah. It felt like cheating, somehow, but it also felt like breathing for the first time in months. Then came Friendsgiving. It's this tradition we started in college. Everyone brings a dish. We cram into someone's apartment, and we eat until we can't move. It's loud and messy and perfect, or at least it used to be. This year, Sarah offered to host. She sent out the invites, planned the menu, even made little place cards for everyone. She was in her element, buzzing around the kitchen, laughing with everyone, acting like nothing had changed. I almost didn't go. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, staring at the front door, trying to decide if I could handle it. But I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of thinking she'd won, whatever that meant. So I went inside, pasted on a smile, and tried to pretend everything was fine. Mark was there. Of course he was. He hugged me like we were old friends, like he hadn't broken my heart. I could smell Sarah's perfume on his shirt. I tried not to gag. Dinner was a blur. People talked and laughed and passed around plates of food, but I felt like I was underwater. Every time I looked at Sarah, she was looking at Mark. Every time I looked at Mark, he was looking at her. I felt invisible. Then, right as we were about to cut the pie, Sarah stood up and tapped her glass. "I have an announcement," she said, her voice all bright and shaky. Mark stood up next to her, and I swear, my heart stopped. "We're engaged," she said, holding up her hand. The ring caught the light, and for a second, I couldn't breathe. It was the ring. The one I'd shown Mark a year ago, the one I'd saved on my phone, the one I'd dreamed about. He'd laughed at me then, said it was too much, but there it was on Sarah's finger. The room went silent. Everyone stared at me. I could feel my face burning, my hands shaking. Sarah was beaming, Mark was grinning, and I was just empty. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to disappear. But I just sat there, staring at the ring, at Sarah, at Mark. And I realized, in that moment, that I'd never really known either of them at all. I don't remember much about the rest of that night. It's like my brain just shut off. I know people tried to talk to me. Someone handed me a slice of pie, someone else squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "Are you okay?" I must have nodded, because they left me alone. I just kept staring at Sarah's hand, at that stupid ring, at the way Mark kept glancing at me like he was waiting for me to say something, to make a scene. I didn't. I couldn't. At some point, I slipped out onto the balcony. The air was cold and sharp, and I could hear laughter and music through the glass. I pressed my forehead against the railing, and tried to breathe. My phone buzzed. Sarah, of course. Come back inside. Don't be weird, with a winking emoji. I almost threw my phone off the balcony. I don't know how long I stood out there, but eventually Sarah came out, wrapped in a blanket, her cheeks flushed from wine and excitement. She leaned against the railing next to me, close enough that I could smell her perfume. The same one I'd smelled on Mark. She didn't say anything at first, just looked out at the street, at the cars and the city lights. Then, quietly, I know this is weird for you, but I really hope you can be happy for me. For us. I wanted to laugh. Or scream. Or both. Instead, I just said, how long? She blinked, like she didn't understand. How long what? I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw it, the flicker of guilt, the way her eyes darted away. How long have you and Mark been, whatever this is? She hesitated. We started talking after you guys broke up. It just happened. I almost believed her. I wanted to, but something in her voice, in the way she wouldn't meet my eyes, made me feel sick. I pushed past her and went back inside. I couldn't do it. I couldn't pretend. I grabbed my coat and my bag and left without saying goodbye. I heard someone call my name, but I didn't look back. The next few days were a blur. I ignored Sarah's texts, let Mark's calls go to voicemail. I stayed in bed, watched bad TV, ate cereal straight from the box. I felt numb, like my body was moving through molasses. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that ring, that look on Sarah's face, that smug little smile on Mark's lips. I started replaying everything in my head, obsessing over every detail. The late-night texts, the canceled plans, the way Sarah always seemed to know where Mark would be. I remembered the time she accidentally left her phone at my place and freaked out when I picked it up. The way Mark would get weirdly defensive if I mentioned Sarah. The way they both acted like I was crazy for being suspicious. And then, like a punch to the gut, I remembered something else. A message I'd seen on Sarah's phone months ago. I'd brushed it off at the time. Just a string of heart emojis from a contact saved as M. I'd assumed it was her cousin, Matt. But now I wasn't so sure. I couldn't let it go. I needed answers, even if they hurt. So I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Sarah's social media, her old posts, her tagged photos. I looked for anything that would prove I wasn't losing my mind. And I found it. A photo from a party, taken weeks before my breakup with Mark. Sarah and Mark standing a little too close, laughing at some private joke. Her hand on his arm, his eyes on her. The comments were full of inside jokes, little winks and nods that made my stomach turn. I scrolled further back and it got worse. Late-night selfies, blurry and intimate, posted at times when Sarah had told me she was home with her mom. Mark liking every single one. Private messages I couldn't see, but I could imagine. I felt sick. Betrayed. Stupid. I confronted Sarah. I texted her, told her I needed to talk. She agreed, probably thinking I was finally ready to move on and be happy for her. We met at the same coffee shop where Mark used to wait for me after work. She looked nervous, but also relieved, like she'd been waiting for this. I didn't waste time. How long were you and Mark together before we broke up? She looked away, twisting her ring. It wasn't like that. Don't lie to me, Sarah. Please. Just tell me the truth. She sighed, and for a second, I saw the girl I used to know. The one who would have told me everything, no matter how messy. A few months, she whispered. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to. I swear. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she hadn't set out to hurt me, that she hadn't orchestrated the whole thing. But the evidence was right there, in every lie, every secret, every coincidence. I asked her, did you ever actually care about me? Or was I just in the way? She started to cry, big, ugly sobs that made people stare. Of course I cared. You're my best friend. I fell in love with him. I couldn't help it. I sat there, watching her cry, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. Like she'd already taken everything from me, and there was nothing left to feel. I left her there, crying into her latte, and walked out into the cold. I didn't look back. After that, I stopped answering her calls. I blocked Mark's number. I even muted our group chat because I couldn't stand the thought of seeing their names pop up together like nothing had happened. I kept waiting for the anger to hit, for the heartbreak to finally break me open, but mostly, I just felt tired. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally let it out. People talk about betrayal like it's this sharp, sudden thing, a knife in the back, a slap across the face. But for me, it was more like a slow leak. Every day, a little more trust, a little more hope, just gone. By the time the truth came out, I didn't even have the energy to be surprised. I started walking a lot. I'd put in my headphones and just wander the city, letting my feet take me anywhere that wasn't home. I'd end up in places I hadn't been since before Mark, before Sarah. Old bookstores, tiny parks, the bakery with the cinnamon rolls that always sell out by noon. I started to remember who I was before all of this. Or maybe I was just trying to convince myself that persons still existed. Sometimes I'd see couples holding hands, laughing, and I'd feel this weird mix of envy and relief. Envy because I wanted what they had, what I thought I had. Relief because at least I wasn't pretending anymore. At least I wasn't living a lie. Sarah tried for a while. She sent long, rambling texts, apologizing, explaining, begging me to forgive her. She said she missed me, that she needed me, that she didn't know how to do this without me. I read them all, but I never replied. I couldn't. Every word just felt like another twist of the knife. Mark didn't bother. I guess he figured he'd already won. Or maybe he just didn't care. I don't know. I don't want to know. The worst part was how everyone else reacted. Some friends took sides. Team Sarah or Team me. Others tried to stay neutral, acting like it was just one of those things that happens when people grow up. I hated that. Like my pain was just some inevitable side effect of adulthood, like I was supposed to just get over it and move on. But I couldn't. Not yet. I started therapy. I told my therapist everything, about Sarah, about Mark, about the ring, about the way I'd let myself believe in things that were never real. She listened, nodded, asked questions that made me cry. She told me it was okay to grieve, that betrayal is a kind of death. The death of trust, the death of a friendship, the death of the future I thought I was building. I started writing again, too. Just little things, journal entries, poems, angry letters I'd never send. It helped a little. It made the pain feel less pointless. Like maybe I could turn it into something, even if it was just a page full of messy words. The thing is, I still miss Sarah. Or maybe I just miss the version of her I thought I knew. The girl who faked sick with me in middle school, who held my hand at my dad's funeral, who made me believe I was worth loving. I don't know where that girl went. Maybe she never existed. Maybe I just wanted her to. I see them sometimes, out in the world. Sarah and Mark, together. They look happy, I guess. Or maybe they're just good at pretending, like we all are. Sometimes Sarah tries to catch my eye, like she wants to say something, but I always look away. I don't owe her anything. Not anymore. I wish I could say I'm over it. That I've moved on, that I'm stronger now, that I've learned some big lesson about love and friendship and forgiveness. But the truth is, I'm still figuring it out. Some days I feel okay. Other days, I feel like I'm drowning. But at least I'm honest about it now. At least I'm not pretending. I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone the way I trusted Sarah. I don't know if I want to. But I do know this. I survived. I'm still here. And that has to count for something. Sometimes late at night I think about texting her. Just to see if she'd answer. Just to see if there's anything left to salvage. But I never do. I just stare at the screen, thumb hovering over her name. And then I put the phone down and go to sleep. Maybe one day I'll forgive her. Maybe one day I'll even forgive myself for not seeing it sooner, for letting it happen. But not today. Today I'm just trying to breathe.